This week on NHRA Today, we'll talk to Eddie Hill about the thrill of that first Winston championship. You'll see history recreated on the legendary Bonneville Salt Flats. And we've got sportsman racing action from all over the country. These stories and more on this edition of NHRA Today. As the 95 season draws closer to its conclusion, the Winston Championship battles are cooling down for most of the pros. But now is the time of the year when competition heats up for drivers who didn't necessarily finish at the top of the heap. They're out to prove to their sponsors that the bucks shouldn't stop here, and you never know who might rise to the occasion at the Chief Nationals. Hello, everyone, and welcome to NHRA Today. I'm Steve Evans. The major buzz here in the pits at the Plex is all about big numbers. And that's not unusual anytime we get near this all-concrete quarter mile. But for the first time in my memory, the weather is reported to be cool for final eliminations. That could mean some astounding numbers and some big holes in the national record book. We got a lot of ground to cover in the next half hour, so let's get started with this week's look at What's Hot. There have been rumors and stories about NHRA making changes and additions to the national event schedule next season. Some of those rumors focus here in Texas. According to Senior Vice President of Racing Operations for NHRA, Graham Light, the 1996 racing schedule is set as it has already been released, and there will be no additions or changes for 96. But look for expansion in 1997. We are happy to report an apparent reconciliation in the Bob Glidden family. The 10-time Winston Pro Stock champion is joined here at Dallas by sons Rusty and Billy, and apparently those two will team up to run one of the family cars.
Just a one-shot deal, just to see what that new car will do, and compared to Dad's, because there's some stuff different on it compared to his aerodynamic-wise. So we're just going to see what it'll do under race conditions.
And that's what's hot. Even the most casual of drag racing fans probably knows that Eddie Hill was the first to crash into the 4-second zone, and he did it right here at the Texas Motorplex. Oh, you people know that, right? Well, a couple of years ago, another moment happened here for Eddie Hill that he will also never forget.
I remember Dallas in '93. We won the world championship there, but the bad news is we won it up in the tower, watching Mike Dunn take Scott Kalita out. The deal was that if Dunn beat Kalita there, we wouldn't have to go to Pomona to settle a championship. We had it won there. If Scott won, we'd have to go out there to settle it. It was strange to win the championship by looking down at two other cars running a race. You know, it really felt strange. It felt good, but actually I was in shock for a few seconds, and it didn't really register for a little while, even though I knew it intellectually inside. It didn't really feel like I'd won for a little while, and then when it hit me, I just, it got to me.
We have to take a real quick break, but there's a lot more show still to go, including a heartwarming story on Coach Joe Gibbs. We'll take you, yes you, to the Bonneville Salt Flats and sensational sportsman action all over the country. So stay right where you are.
NHRA Today is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler Plymouth, Dodge Truck, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. And by Castrol GTX, engineered for greater protection against breakdown.
Welcome back to the home of the Cowboys and the Chief Nationals. A few weeks ago, we brought you part one of a profile on Coach Joe Gibbs. It talked about football and auto racing, of course. Well, the coach has another project he is deeply involved in. It has nothing to do with the prior, just kids. What began in 1983 as a vision of Joe Gibbs has grown into reality in the small town of Bristow, Virginia.
This is just the beginning. We have 137 acres here. The dream was to have 3 homes, where we could be working with somewhere between 90 to 100 kids at a time.
Currently, the facility is the year-round home and educational system for 30 boys, supervised by live-in residential counselors. Operational costs are obtained mainly through private contributions, donations, and fundraising activities.
The community built it, and we tried to have different construction people chip in at different times, the heavy construction people, Northern Virginia home builders. I mean, we had different people contributing, and we built the home, you know, pretty much debt-free. But the problem is trying to run it year in and year out, every year. Boy, it is hard to do, to raise that money.
But what the community is investing in is life. And the 80% success rate of the program speaks volumes about the commitment of both the staff and the residents who live in the New Life Center. It means more than just giving these kids a second chance.
I'm just happy that I was able to have the chance to come here and to change my life around. It's almost been a pretty big asset in where I'm going and what I'll be doing, and just the things I've learned here. I really appreciate it.
Some people come here, they don't want to change, and then eventually, like a month and a half, you see them and it's like they're a totally different person. So mainly, I think you really have to want to change. You want to look for a bright future.
The progress of each resident is managed through an individualized plan and reviewed regularly. The ultimate outcome is to return the boys to their homes and schools and to provide them with the skills they'll need to become productive members of society.
It's a tough deal. They got to get up at 6:30 in the morning, they run, they do their chores, they go to school year-round. And so it takes a certain kind of kid with a lot of toughness, and he's got to make a real commitment to want to really kind of get caught back up in education. And I think it takes a big commitment on their part. So these kids got a lot of guts that come here that stay.
Castrol presents the GTX Pipeline, the latest news from the world of drag racing.
Recently, over 20 cars from several eras of NHRA drag racing were on display at the nation's largest fair, the LA County Fair.
This display came about because the LA County Fair came to NHRA and asked us to put on a display highlighting our involvement with the fairgrounds. NHRA has been sanctioning drag races right here on the fairgrounds since 1953. We have the different eras. We start out with the hay bales, which is the way Pomona was first run. Then we go into the single guardrail, the double guardrail, the arm poke, and then finally into the simulated concrete guardrail. We have cars that represent those eras, and it's been really rewarding because people that you think would have no interest in drag racing or even cars, well, you'll catch them taking the time to read the signs, read about the historic cars. We're just thrilled with the response. It's been a very popular display.
Among the cars on display at the fair were some historically important vehicles from another racing arena. We'll show you that when we come back. Think salt.
Promotional consideration has been provided by Fruit of the Loom t-shirts, sweatshirts, and sports shirts, the official activewear of NHRA.
Just 10 years ago, man created the Texas Motorplex out of asphalt, concrete, glass, and steel, and it's impressive. But there's a place in Utah that is awe-inspiring. It was created millions of years ago by Mother Nature, who now needs man's help to save it. Here's the first in a two-part story on the Bonneville Salt Flats.
In prehistoric times, occupying the Great Basin in western Utah was Lake Bonneville. Some 15,000 years ago, the lake covered nearly 20,000 square miles and was over 1,200 feet deep. Lake Bonneville evaporated as the climate grew warmer and drier. Today, what remains is the Great Salt Lake Desert that once served as the bed of the ancient Lake Bonneville. It's on that encrusted surface that most of the world's land speed records have been set. Bonneville, the Salt Flats, a land so beautiful, so vast, so different, it truly is like no other place on Earth. Words can't describe the area's magnificent scope. Yet to those who return each year with a dream of setting new speed records, the ongoing concern with the deteriorating condition of the Salt Flats has finally been recognized by the Bureau of Land Management and Riley Industries, a mining company that removes brine and potash from underground water by way of pumping it to their facility adjacent to the raceway. The salt is a waste byproduct of that operation.
The most recent significant development in the Save the Salt endeavors is the BLM and the state of Utah have signed the salt laydown agreement, which is a project to lay down some salt on the Bonneville Raceway in an effort to try and restore some of the salt that's been lost and has been attributed to mining operations.
75 million tons of salt currently in evaporation ponds leased by Riley Industries will be reintroduced to the north side of the freeway by way of flooding the flats during the winter months at a rate that will hopefully increase the salt layer by 2 inches over the 5-year project.
Overall, I think it'll prove out that we will continue racing while we're restoring the salt flats. So we're very optimistic and hopeful that that'll work.
If the laydown project isn't successful in reversing the deterioration, we will bring litigation against Riley to stop their mining operations until we can figure out a way to do it, because we just feel that they have a legal duty to not do harm to the Bonneville salt flats.
The depreciation of the salt flats is clearly noticeable from the air. The thickness of the salt surface has gone from almost 18 inches to mud in some areas, and through the unwavering efforts of environmentalists, historians, and Save the Salt Incorporated, this geological treasure will hopefully be restored to its once pristine state.
Let's hope the laydown project is a big success. Stay with us. When we come back, you'll go back to Bonneville to see some history recreated. Welcome back to the Texas Motorplex and the Division IV Hall of Fame. Now, you know, most of these mementos would probably not exist had Wally Parks not founded the National Hot Rod Association in the early 50s. But did you know that Mr. Parks was also greatly responsible for the first speed trials on the Bonneville Salt Flats? Well, recently, in fact, in part 2 of our Bonneville story, Wally returns to Wendover to recreate some personal history.
Last month, Wally Parks and his son David participated in the 9th annual World of Speed contest. David with his turbocharged 77 Camaro and Wally in his newly recreated 1957 Plymouth Savoy named Suddenly 2, a replica of the original that took top honors over the NASCAR factory contestants by running 159 miles an hour at Daytona Beach in 57 and later eclipsed that mark by 20 miles an hour at Bonneville.
I've always kind of dreamed of having the car back, and when we found we couldn't get it back, why, we said, let's make one that is like it.
Just watching me, I know, he's getting a big kick out of that, and I'm getting an even bigger kick out of watching him and have a chance to come up and run that car.
David being involved in this kind of racing has always been special to me because the way he does it is very similar to the way we did in the early times. Most of it has been done with his own hands, his own head, and his own experimentation.
Hot rodding pioneers Jack Lufkin and Ack Miller were on hand.
Congratulations. Yeah.
With crew chief Leonard Carr and Wally congratulating David on his 180-mile-an-hour run. While accolades were being extended down course, custom car fabricator and salt flat racer Jim Travis, along with his son Randy, were preparing the 57 for Wally's run. In only 16 weeks, the restoration project was complete and the car made its debut on the Speedway's shimmering salt.
The first time that I saw it here on the salt, it was exciting.
To have the car out here and have it all done and just watch Wally's eyes and his smile from ear to ear and to hear it run, to have him drive it. When he gets out of the car after he's driven it, his feet don't touch the ground for about 20 steps.
I don't think I ever enjoyed driving anything more than I did the original Suddenly, the sound and the feel of it. And this one came very close to that same sensation. But yeah, how sweet it is.
Tex Smith, who worked with Wally in the early years of Hot Rod Magazine and served as NHRA's national field director, was once again by his colleague's side, savoring the experience.
Do I look heroic?
You look heroic.
Not as good as I feel, I'll tell you that. Oh, man. Wow.
During the practice runs, a problem with the freeze plugs was detected, but that did not deter the efforts of Travis and former NHRA technical advisor Don Francisco at getting the car up to speed.
The car's an antique, but it doesn't hold a candle to the crew for antiques.
After more practice runs, both car and driver were ready for their first attempt on the fabled Bonneville course.
It takes you back a few years, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of years.
Yeah, it makes me get the urge somehow to do.
I know it. Well, try it.
Well, you have fun.
Thank you. Thanks, George.
Even Wally's wife, Barbara, was on hand for the special occasion.
It's fantastic. It really is. And this has meant so much to Wally. It's the greatest thing that's happened for so long for him. And then being able to drive here again. He's always loved Bonneville.
The first pass clocked in at 146 miles an hour in the quarter and 147 in the mile. And in speed trials, an average of 2 runs in both directions on the course is needed to set records. Despite falling short on the return run due to a problem with the mag switch, the 4-day event was filled with satisfaction, accomplishment, and memories that will live on forever.
Just getting in the car, and when the engine was running, it felt at home.
Wally was walking up to me with a hand out to shake my hand, and I said, "We're here, we did it."
Well, Wally Parks and his new NHRA couldn't have asked for better ink than the April 29th, 1957 cover of Life magazine. That brought in some memberships. You can bet on it. In fact, just a few years later, the organization was big enough to support its own publication. It was called National Dragster, still is. Early issues, a dozen or so pages. Now they average over 150. Believe me when I tell you, this is our Bible of drag racing. It can be yours as well for just $52 a year when you join NHRA. You'll get a pen, a patch, a decal, a rule book, a bunch of other neat stuff. And if you call the number on your screen, you'll get your choice of the Diamond P Video Drag Racing 94 or the good-looking NHRA membership T-shirt. So make that call or punch up the National Dragster homepage on the World Wide Web. You can join that way as well. If you're looking for great sportsman action next weekend, don't drive by Firebird Raceway in Chandler. Drive in. Up next, Bob Fry goes hopping all over the United States to cover end-of-the-season sportsman action. It's good stuff. Welcome back, everyone. How about this 1955 Thunderbird Super Comper of Mike Lindsay? Is this baby hot? And I'll tell you, out there in sportsman land, there are some hot battles going on for national and regional titles. To tell us all about it, here is Bob, what a festive mood I'm in, Fry.
Hey, I know what you think. Here it is, that Fry guy taking another vacation. But nope, these are just souvenirs of my trip around the world of Sears Craftsman ET bracket racing and Winston Divisional Series sportsman racing.
Our first stop on the map was Maple Grove Raceway, home of the Division I Sears Craftsman ET Finals. Now, considering the usual size of a bracket event, this ET Final was massive with a car count over 900. Of course, that gave the massive Spirit Squad something to cheer about, especially the team from Lancaster Dragway, which won the Spirit Award. As night fell over the track, the temperatures dropped as well at the start of the final rounds. In the Super Eliminator Final, Stephen Dunn found himself against Mike Rosa. As the drivers left the line, Mike played catch-up, only to break out and give the win to Stephen.
We had a lot of luck. To my father here, I mean, he's 75% of the team, and you know, things went our way. It wasn't cut and killer lights. It just everything came together and gelled real well.
When all was said and done, Maple Grove Raceway came out on top again, receiving the coveted Team Championship Award. Now here are the other winners from the Sears Craftsman ET Finals in Division I. There was also great ET action in Division IV at the Texas Motorplex. As bracket racers from all over the Lone Star State swarmed to the track, so did the Killer Bees. That is, the Killer Bees from Texas Raceway.
I work at the track, and this is the best. I don't race, so this is the best way I can support the team. I feel like we got one of the best teams around.
Apparently, the Bee was quite a pest to some of the other team cheering squads, especially since Texas Raceway won the Team Spirit Award. Fortunately, this thing didn't hurt the racers, as drivers gathered to see who was going to be the real Texas Outlaw. But due to a power failure in the area, the final rounds were delayed until almost midnight. And still, through it all, Texas Raceway kept up the morale. Now, here are the final round winners from the Sears Craftsman ET Finals in Division IV. Also in Division IV, the last Winston Drag Racing Series event for the South Central competitors took place at Houston Raceway Park with close to 500 entrants. The race was huge for reigning top alcohol dragster champion Tom Conway in his quest to repeat as champion. He had to win this event to gain any points on the leader, Jay Payne. In the final, Darrell Russell picked up his third Division IV win in a row with a 571 to a losing 579 for Conway.
He was having problems all weekend getting down the track, so we just knew if we just played our own game and ran our own race, we'd be all right, and we were.
Now, here are the names that go with these smiling faces. And finally, Firebird Raceway in Boise, Idaho held its 24th annual Pepsi Night Fire Nationals during the latter part of the summer. It was also the inaugural USAA Fuel-Altered National Championships, and it attracted a big field and the biggest crowd ever for a drag race in the area. Mac McCord's Gorilla captured the altered title with a sizzling 589 in the final. For NHRA Today, I'm Bob Fry.
And now, Red Wing Shoes wants to take a moment to tell you who's hot in the world of drag racing. Joe Penland, who had to win to remain close to Bob Newberry for the top alcohol funny car title, did just that at the Division IV Winston Drag Racing Series in Houston. Penland, the #1 qualifier, overcame a few problems to beat Tate Branch in the pressure-packed final.
We had a little trouble getting up and down the track. It was slick here and there for us, but it worked out to be pretty good.
Our congratulations to Joe Penland. And be sure to keep watching next week when Red Wing Shoes will once again tell you who's hot in the world of drag racing. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today, but we'll be back next week and at the times you see on your screen with results of the Chief Nationals. I'm Steve Evans for all of us here at NHRA Today. We'll see you then here on TNN.
NHRA Today has been brought to you by Mopar Parts and the Chrysler Corporation dealers who sell and install them. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
What could follow the 3 volumes of Diamond P's and They Walked Away series? A 4th, and They Walked Away 4, like its predecessors, captures the most perilous moments in recent motorsports history. Unmerciful tumbles, unbelievable flips, falls, and fires, and in every harrowing incident, the driver beats the odds. Once again, man and machine test their mettle through mayhem in over a dozen motorsports disciplines. You can't find this video in stores. You can't rent it. And anyone who has it won't let you beg, borrow, or steal it. Then how do you get your own copy of And They Walked Away 4? Call 1-800-652-8686 or send $24.95 plus $4 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. 1-800-652-8686 or charge it on your Visa, MasterCard, or Discover card.
NHRA Today is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.